be a good time if you can.
Okay, let's call the fire district board meeting to order for March 16th. You call the roll, Chris?
Absolutely. This is gonna get confusing. Aldrich is absent with notice. Beckman?
Here.
Fox?
Here.
Verplank?
Here.
Phelps?
Here.
Pullen?
Here.
And Miller is also absent with notice?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, I suppose we ought to say the pledge of allegiance.
Should.
I pledge allegiance to
To
the
the
flag
flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Turn off your cell phone. Let's get this done. Let's do approval of the agenda. What absolutely needs to be left on here and what should go, because we don't.
For today, I'm thinking, well, minutes, accounts payable, and maybe the March 28th thing.
Okay, and let's leave the grant business, the new business on, and the rest of it can go.
Okay.
Unless you want to bring up the Scott Boscroft thing, right?
Sure.
All right. Okay,
All right.
so, can somebody move to accept the agenda
As amended, I'll make the motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second?
Okay, so can we have approval of the January 20th closed session meeting minutes? You all read them? Could I have
I'll make a motion to approve the January 20th closed session meeting minutes.
I'll second.
a motion by Beckman and a second by Phelps. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, now can we have a motion to accept the minutes of the February 17th?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of February 17th, 2020.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed? Okay, that was Pullen and Fox, correct?
Okay, yep.
All right, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, if you have questions about the bills, maybe Greg can answer them, but can we have a motion to approve the bills?
I'll make a motion to approve the bills of $166,478.42.
Is there any
I'll support.
We have a motion by Phelps, support by Beckman. Is there any questions on the bills? Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Absolutely. Phelps?
Yes.
Beckman?
Yes.
Fox?
Yes.
Verplank?
Yes.
And Pullen?
Yes.
We'll have to do the financial report next month. Peter decided to make it one less person in the crowd.
It's in here. I mean,
Yeah,
I suppose if we have questions, we can email Peter.
right.
You're basically at your expenditures, one of the critical ones, percentage of budget used is at 64%, which is good for this time of the year.
When your fiscal year end?
July 1st is our fiscal year.
Okay, and June 30th, okay.
There'll have to be some budget amendments, maybe if I can share that, Jane, that's okay. You can see some things are over, for example, 709 line item, operational wages. We will take money out of paid-on-call stipend, which is only at a 45%. We'll do some budget adjustments on some of these things. We're getting slaughtered on medical supplies and, you know, drawing a blank of what else there was. Oh, dues and subscriptions were licenses that were due, just things like that has really gone up. Medical supply was a big one that there was an unfunded mandate, really ramped up. So, not a lot else that's noteworthy.
No.
Okay, moving on then, let's go to the grant applications. Greg, do you want to explain?
Yes, I'm sorry. Grant applications, so we were lucky, the grant team was awarded 2 grants from our insurance company. We have a new grant team member, and that's Chris Bernhardy. Chris Mantles and I are teaching him how to do grants. He was a chief author. As you know, I'm opposed to any one person being credited with writing a grant because I don't think it's fair. We have a grant team, and Chris Bernhardy led number 1 and number 2. We wrote a grant, and I was the chief author for the plating for the insurance company for Live Fire Training Center. We had an annual meeting Friday with our insurance company, and our rep, who's pretty high up in the food chain, agreed the committee was wrong. Nonetheless, it was declined. Really happy to share that we got a $6,300 grant for Live Fire Training Center.
What was plating?
Plating is a steel plating that we have to put in the rooms to keep the walls of the shipping containers from burning through. So it's shielding.
Do we have any at all?
We have 3 rooms out of 8 that are plated, and we were trying to finish them. Chief DeBliker just shared with me this morning, he wrote a $10,000 grant through Macatawa something or other, and that was turned down too. Grants are getting very tough. Competition is fierce. But we're always submitting grants. You can see we worked on another one. The chief author was Chris Mantles on another one for FEMA. So you'll see that. On grant applications, that's pretty much it right there, Jane.
Mm-hmm.
May I go to G,
Right,
appreciation
yes.
dinner? My recommendation is we possibly postpone this.
Yeah, I agree.
Is that okay? Actually, St. Peter's Church, our venue, cancel everything.
Yeah, I thought
So-
they probably would.
Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah, has to be, we have a choice.
We
I
don't
think
need
we're at the
to-
mercy of them, so when we're ready,
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if we do it in March or April or,
No.
you know, whenever.
We'll notify Farmhouse.
Okay, moving on to new business, the FEMA grant for the fiscal year, we need to approve the 5% match.
Is this in here? I'm sorry.
No,
You
I'm
want me to know
sorry.
what that
Oh,
grant
that's
is?
all right.
You wanna know what that grant is for?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to include that.
That's all right. That grant is for, so the biggest thing now with fire service is cancer. So these 2 commercial wash machines and dryer would allow us to properly wash our turnout gear in a larger volume. The machine we have now isn't capable of doing that. So there's 2 machines, and you can do a number of sets, and you can take out the liners and separate them, and that allows us to get the gear back into service, because we do not have backup gear. So when that gear is contaminated, it doesn't even go back in the truck. It's going to go in a garbage bag, goes in the back of a truck, isolated from the cab. It comes back here, it goes into the wash machine. And right now, it's something that we decided is a priority.
It gets contaminated by
Smoke. All the smoke particles, real toxic. And that's been the thing, it's getting in through our necks, right in here. We have spare masks. If a firefighter's in a fire, he has to turn in his mask. We have replacements, we budgeted for that. But the wash machines, we wrote a grant for about $37,000 for that, including the plumbing. So we think that's important, and your match is less than $2,000.
$1,800.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, got it.
So basically, it's for commercial Milnor washers, which are pretty heavy duty. Eggleston Fire Department has them just near North Muskegon Township, and they do everyone around. Yeah.
Really?
So I grew up with Milnor machines in the hotel business, so they're more money. A lot of times it's what you pay for, and we're hoping the government will pay for it.
Is that something we can do for Grass Cup in Hamilton too, wash theirs and maybe
They're,
get something out of them? They weren't part of the grant. Certainly we've always been receptive to that.
and Blyker Grasscup wrote a grant as well. He went with a different machine, but, you know, the days of just using a hose, I mean, I can remember having turnout gear in my truck.
I don't wanna
never got
I don't wanna drag this out long.
It never got washed.
You know, trying to,
It never got washed.
No.
is there anything we need to do as far as where it drains and how it drains? in
Well, we have to cut the
system?
floor and put a trough drain in.
I know, but we're washing toxic stuff, the gray water leaving the system, can that just be put into the system?
Yeah.
You know what I mean, into
Right.
the...
It's
sewer
diluted,
system?
plus the soap that goes in there
Oh,
is permissible.
good, I just
No, good
wanna
question.
CYA.
Well, that's the whole thing, contamination is a real issue.
Absolutely.
Oh,
And
yeah.
now when you get a truck or you build a station, there's contamination, decontamination sites, whole different ballgame. So we're trying to make do with what can we change?
Mhm.
And we don't have
Good.
gear in the truck after a fire.
I do have a sample motion, I'm sorry, I forgot to include it in the packet on Friday apparently. If you,
Now, have we done this grant yet, or is that what? Chris
That's what we
said?
need the approval for, because it's due Tuesday, Friday.
Okay.
so motion by Blank, second by Blank, to authorize fire district staff to apply for the FEMA AFG grant in the amount of $37,500, including a fire district match of 5% for turnout gear, extractor, and dryers, with the fire district match not exceeding $1,873.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
I'll support it.
Okay, we have a motion by Pullen and support by Beckman
What's
to,
the roll call?
Yeah.
yes, just one moment, please. For the FEMA AFG grant, and this is for the 5% match of $1,873. We have a roll call vote, please.
Absolutely. So Pullen,
Yes.
Beckman,
Yes.
Phelps,
Yes.
Fox,
Me?
yeah,
Yes.
sorry, and for Blank.
Yes. Motion carries unanimously.
I
No,
didn't want
he
to say
didn't
yes,
say
I want to make
that.
sure I was saying yes.
He did not say that.
That's what it sounded like.
Okay, next, item B, funding approval request for the public safety floating dock.
May I?
Yes, please.
So requesting urgent approval on this because we've got to get it ordered. We're already 2 months behind on this floating dock. Right now, the permit process is, Saugatuck City unanimously approved the dock and a 10-year street and license. We've only had 1 year. So to get this ordered, we need approval for it. We budgeted for it. We started this back in 2017. So, that's what we're asking. Sample motion is attached to the funding approval form.
I'll make a motion to authorize the fire district staff to purchase the Miko Sullivan floating dock, including associated installation materials and fees, not to exceed the amount of $75,000.
And do we think we can do the right discussion time yet or not?
We need a second.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Phelps and a second by Pullen. Is there discussion?
And what's your best guess as to when it could get in? I don't know, we missed the window for April 15th, so we don't know now, they're waiting on us. There are two things that are up in the air right now, is the permit process with Eagle is such that they weigh in on the public comments. Based on public comments, then they would either do a public hearing or not. They were receptive to a 6-foot dock, and we showed them we want an 8-foot dock, which is not common in the area. And we want an 8-foot dock because when we would take a patient off the fireboat on floating docks, they tend to do this.
Oh, yeah.
So the manufacturer recommended an 8-foot floating dock. Where Eagle objected was, you're going from an 8-foot dock and going to a 4-foot gangplank. They're correct, only the gangplank has rails on it. On a transfer from a patient up the ramp, it's a 4-person carry. So a person, and you walk, and you take the ambulance gurney up to there, and then you go to a 2-person carry. So 2 foot is 6 foot, that gives a foot on each side. Engineering, everyone agreed, just the Eagle processor said, I don't know, I'd rather not, but let's see what happens. So either it's a 6-foot or 8-foot dock is really irrelevant.
Okay.
I guess the problem, the wider it is, the more it covers the bottom of the river, so it may affect breeding of fish. That's what we're told. So that's where we're at. Also, there's another, we don't know yet on what Saugatuck City will sell us the gangway for. We've put in there, we're open, it's $1,000 or less, but we don't know, they haven't determined that. If we have to buy a new one, it's $6,500.
What a chat about gifting that?
There was, but we didn't want to assume that.
I mean,
I
if
don't
they've
know
got
whether-
one, what are they gonna do with it if they don't sell it?
No, they could sell it. They could sell it. That's why I thought we used to offer,
Offer some money.
or be receptive to, we may have to pay for it, so I don't know what they're gonna do.
Maybe we should put in here either a 6-foot or an 8-foot wide, since you don't know. Is that correct? You don't know yet?
Yeah, we priced the wider one.
Okay.
Yeah,
So if it
so
goes
it
to
won't
6 foot,
exceed, it'll be cheaper,
less.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
We've got
So
it
I
covered.
think you're okay with that, Drew.
Okay.
And then the only other issue we have to overcome is, who's gonna assume the responsibility for setting the pilings because of the water main? There's some real argument. I met with our insurance company on Friday. They said, based on the letter they got from the director of the water department, that was fragile. He said he feels, their legal department feels they would have a hard time proving, just because we jetted in or we pounded in pilings, that we damaged that water main. Because the water main is at an age where it's become more fragile. And they don't want to assume the responsibility for it. So we have to still work that out with the marine contractor and our insurance company.
Make sure you don't.
We are covered for it, but obviously our insurance company doesn't want to pay for that.
Yeah, they don't have. to.
So that's a hurdle, but this has become a project where I had to take one hurdle at a time.
Yeah.
And we've come a long way. And thank God Saugatuck City, is all unanimous.
Good, that's good. That's good.
Dock and the license.
So if I may,
Yeah.
the gangway will be put on the next agenda of the Saugatuck City Council, and they will not be meeting again until March 30th. All the meetings in Saugatuck have been canceled until
Fair enough, yeah.
30th of March, so I'll get that on the council agenda for the 30th of March.
Thanks.
It's up to the city council as to what kind of a price, or if it will be donated to the fire.
Thank you.
Moving on.
We have to finish the.
Oh, all right, I'm sorry,
We're-
need a roll call vote.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
So the motion was by Phelps, second by Pullen, to authorize fire district staff to purchase the Miko Sullivan floating dock, including associated install material and fees, with a not to exceed amount of $75,000. Phelps,
Yes.
Pullen,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
and Verplank.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes too.
Did I get you? I'm sorry.
I guess they don't want you.
You couldn't see me over here? Would've been waiting nothing.
My bad.
Got the virus.
How often does that happen?
I think it's because you weren't gonna be here that I've still got it in my head.
That's true.
That's my bad, I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry.
All right, so moving on.
See,
Well, if I move on,
Oh, screw that up.
basic life support.
just want you to start thinking about this as a board. I think that we should invest some time in looking at transporting. I know that's a big hurdle, but with AMR, transporting meaning taking the patients to the hospital, providing basic life support, not paramedic level. Because AMR has some real dynamics that they're changing. They're not making enough money. They tripled the price in the township. And I've been talking to every chief I can that transport. Brighton Fire is transporting now. Here's the reason I think you should consider it. Number one, we're already there. And we go to EMT level, which is a change in licensing. Most of our people are EMTs. We can transport. Now, it's an investment. Our truck payments are done next year, and we have one more payment. We finance a truck about $220K, we have a backup truck that's used, because you're gonna have to have 2 trucks. It's something I think you should consider from a increased level of service in the township and in Saugatuck City and Douglas, because AMR is becoming more black line. It's more about the money. I think Fenville Ambulance is probably gonna dissolve. Things are gonna change. There's already some things where organizations, Brighton Fire, Holland Fire, are looking at this, they're waiting too long for AMR. We heard today that from somebody that works at AMR, they're gonna lose more paramedics because they're gonna be quarantined. They're gonna have a hard time fulfilling the need of paramedics. I am opposed to ALS, which is Advanced Life Support. So I don't wanna go on too much other than, I think we should have more of a discussion about that and look into that.
Is that something we can charge for?
Yes, it is, and I asked, I don't wanna put somebody on for accounts receivable or accounts payable. All of them use a fee-based organization, already have that name. Already asked, I thought I needed $400,000 for a truck, and I got 3 chiefs to say, here's the truck, here's what you need, it's $225,000.
That would be
used
the
one.
ambulance you're talking about?
Yes, right.
Yeah, okay.
So, we would only take to Holland, we would not take to Allegan, we would not take to Grand Rapids. So, I think that there's some advantages as far as the level of service that our residents would get. And it is
Faster, it'd be
billable,
faster,
it's
it's
billable.
billable, so.
The only concern I would have is when we're transporting patients, I'm sure we'd have to have multiple people in the vehicle, a driver and someone in back. Now we're 2 less firefighters. Talking about overlapping calls, we got 2 in different cities, so definitely
that's
a
something-
huge concern of mine.
It is something we have to look at. The way a lot of these fire departments are hiring paramedics and EMTs are, most of them are working Kelly shifts, or working part of the month. They hire them when they're off work. And then they actually do a 12-hour shift. So that's how they're doing it. Likewise, we would do it with AMR. Anyone else that works for Life Ambulance, we would reach out to them and try to engage those people for 12-hour shifts. That would be a challenge, but it's a lot easier to engage that rather than if we had paramedics. Now, that being said, one final thought. This would be a lot better program to implement if we had Holland, Nebraska, and some of the other fire departments. Hamilton. Ambulance in Hamilton and ambulance here. Interlocal agreements would be very challenging to do under that situation, but that's actually, Holland Fire approached me on this whole thing.
Oh.
Chris has thought of it quite some time, and I think EMT level basic life support would be make a lot more sense to implement.
It seems to me at some point, we ought to have, once we develop a case for this, and, detailed case for it, we ought to have a public hearing on this, because I think people should have partly because I think they come in more than willing to give this a fair shot, or even maybe, as I say, more than willing. But I think we'd be smart to not just on our own,
I agree.
Get into one of these, pick your jurisdiction that decides to have a pissing match with the fire board.
And I think we need to lay it out on the cost, the
Sure, absolutely, everything.
added cost that we would
The
have to
service,
get
the
from
reason
people.
for, all this stuff about delayed
It'd have
times,
to be a
people
business
putting down.
plan. It'd almost have to be like a business
Well,
plan.
the other thing I thought about doing is seeing if we could find a consultant that specializes in this and analyzing our area and services and make a recommendation as kind of this is crazy or not. My fear is what's happening in township with tripling the price. If I'm out of line, Griffin, tell me on that whole thing. But that's my worry, and then the rumor is, what I heard from a couple of chiefs down south is they're pulling out, that will dissolve, Life Ambulance will come in here. And then they're gonna push AMR out, and they're gonna go to Holland. It's all territorial.
Do they cover Saugatuck and Douglas, AMR?
That's the provider in this area. Life tried to get in the last time, but their fee was a lot higher. Now they have new management at AMR. And, they're a for-profit company. They aren't making enough money.
And their fee for the township is higher now,
They tripled it.
tripled it, yeah.
So, that's my...
Get everything together, and like Eric said, a business plan or something, let us know all the costs, what we're bringing in, what we, possibly could. I realize that's just,
I can start that process. Obviously, that'll take some time, but if I had objections, I wouldn't even go anywhere with this.
We talked about this 10, 11 years ago with John about an ambulance service, and
Yeah,
he's
I'd
like,
like
I don't
to
want
see-
any part of that. We gotta hire thousands, it's gonna cost millions of dollars. It's like, at some point, we're gonna have to
You're gonna
look
have
into
to.
it.
No, it's getting to
Yeah,
that
I'd
point.
like to see all of
You
it.
may be forced to, so let me see how far I can get into it.
Okay.
Without advising you need to hire a consultant, or I need, 3 months to do this type thing.
But
Okay.
as this grows, so must we. I mean, where are you gonna put an ambulance in this building? This is a huge financial investment
Yep.
for the community.
Absolutely is.
Well, I've got
And-
some answers on that. I've shuffled some stuff in the back, and,
There's room.
my vehicle, the prior chief left his truck outside. I don't, never really did that. Number one, I have Narcan in there, it has to be controlled as far as temperature goes, that can be taken out. We can do some adjustments where we could get by, because I would wanna try to implement it without putting an addition on.
Well, we're already busting at
I know,
the seams,
I know.
so I think we
I know.
really have to look at all of this.
Yep. Maybe a two-part presentation, one with adding on and one with just working with the facility the way we have it, because you have enough investment with 2 trucks.
Well,
And we
just,
can't start another whole new service in this building, there's just no place to start
I agree with that, but maybe it needs to be looked at in a separate building on the other side of the river.
That's another huge investment.
I agree,
So-
but what happens if something happens to
Yeah, I
that bridge?
understand all that.
We can transport on a triage situation,
Yeah.
mass casualty, we can load in anything. Fortunately, we don't have those.
Well, I mean, I think Jane's right, and, I feel that I'm right, but that's why we gotta look at all this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love
Absolutely, yes.
Dan's idea of having an open forum at
Oh, I
some
do
point if
too.
we get to that
But I think
point.
it's a two-stage thing.
Yeah.
One is trying to assess
It's
the realities
feasible.
and the finances and the issues, township kind of issues and what have you, so that people understand why we're even looking at this. And then the second half of it is, okay, so what's your best shot at what it's gonna cost? And I think if those two things get mixed up, you're just gonna have people bouncing off
Yeah.
walls. So you need to kind of get, ideally, if it goes the way I think you'd like it to go, is people say, yeah, we understand, it's probably gonna cost more, but the service is gonna be better. I mean, in the aggregate, it's gonna cost more, but we're not gonna have township paying 3 times AMR's price. So, yeah, you guys should go look at it, and then the next step is, we've looked at it, here's what it's gonna cost, here's how it's gonna be funded, and whatever, and whether that's 2 meetings or not. But I think the earlier you can get the public at some level,
Engage.
understanding that we are looking at a new service situation to try and improve basic life support, transport services to the area. Come talk to us. That could be a town hall, it doesn't even have to be a public meeting with all that entails, I don't think, maybe it does, but.
I just thought it was important to share what is potentially on the future horizon of Saugatuck Fire.
It's not my fault.
And I agree with you, but this could cost the township a lot more than 3 times what they're paying.
Oh, yeah, well, it will,
So,
it will.
I think we have to look at the
whole big picture.
whole big, huge picture,
Right.
because this fire department is probably as big as it can be in this building, so it's probably bigger than it can be in this building already. So I just think we have to be cautious and look at,
Well, there could be a couple of different plans, Plan A, Plan B.
Right.
yeah, but it all boils down to plan C the money.
Yeah, who's gonna pay for it?
Right.
Yeah, yeah, we gotta figure all that out.
Okay, moving on to item D.
COVID-19.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is overwhelmed the department, you know, meetings and all that. We've implemented a number of initiatives, disinfecting plans. We are gonna put into, we're working on the draft today where each staff member is a personnel assessment. So we have a list of questions that were prepared. How do you feel? Do you have dry coughs? Do you have a temperature? We take the temperature, we document the personnel. They answer yes to any of that, they're removed from service. Disinfectant plans extended to the trucks on a daily basis and then on the foyer on a daily basis. So lots of activity going on there. Schools have reached out to us. We got on a conference call for an hour and a half with the county, so there's an instant action plan. So obviously this is going to change the way we do business. That's going to be a priority. Seemed like we just had the Lake Shore as a priority. Now this has put everything down here. Quarantine, what does it mean for you guys? For example, we have paid on call. They go into quarantine to determine if they've got COVID. Who's paying the workers' comp? We're trying to get the governor today to do an emergency declaration that allows seamless, doesn't matter who pays for it. If he's working for the fire department at the time, they're paying for it, because this has been subject to opposition. We're also trying to get the governor to declare a lot of people are going to be going on overtime, so they want to do state exemption on the taxes for overtime. They also wanted the schools to reopen for daycare. So when the firefighters get called in, or emergency responders, and there's no one to take care of their kids, there's a place to take them. That Dr. Travis mentioned today in a meeting. So a lot of things that are pretty critical here that are being worked out.
There's a lot of babysitters out there right now. Kids not going to school.
I know.
Yeah, driving me nuts.
Oh, my God. Okay, moving on, there's a memo from Scott Bostra.
Yeah, this came in, we just started sharing this with you because he asked that it get shared with the trustees, township trustee and the fire board. So it was basically after the Board of Appeals ruling, frankly, we expected him to resubmit a plan review based on the WUI code, and we're waiting for him, a different code. Nothing happened, so we responded to him, and you know, he didn't like that response, so.
He's the one who wanted to go that way, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was a real stupid
He
one.
objected the fire code, so
You can't
now
do it
it's
if you don't
under
have the right-
review. Huh? I'm sorry.
You can't do it if you don't have the right review stuff to review.
No. We're actually running into that right now, because both the other codes that were referenced in the code, I've been working on that ever since, and there's a lot of things that have to be done before we can submit the review. He doesn't feel, you know, we're moving fast enough, and we're not mitigating enough. And with attorneys and consultants and ICC, who wrote the code, the three of those involve quite an extensive process. There's filings that have to be done, there's declarations. All that has been done. We're waiting for a flow test from an engineer, we're waiting for a consultant final review, and then attorney final review, so.
Maybe you can invite them in, give them Clorox wipe and help out around here, and it'll speed things up.
Yeah, yeah.
In all due respect, things like the trail and things like this aren't a priority for me. Right now, the health of the public is the priority, and I'm only one person that can only do so much on as much as I can delegate. It all ends up being where either Greg makes a good decision or he doesn't make a good decision. So I need to do fact-based decisions, and that review under the other code is very extensive. So,
Takes time.
Scott, has his opinions, and that's all I can really say.
Well, we have to do what we
Is
have
there
to
any
do.
public comments? Fire board comments? You got anything, Dan? Eric? Scott?
Nope.
Drew? Okay, we are adjourned.